Thank you, Bisan. So officially, I'm now opening this webinar. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome and thank you all for joining this critical discussion themed From Resistance to Resilience, Guyana, the Caribbean, and Global Solidarity in the Fight Against Genocide in Palestine. It is day 407 and 76 years of genocide. Mourning, rage, resistance, and revolutionary hope. These sentiments have filled our hearts over the past year. The Zionist entity has unleashed sheer brutality as it has for the last 75 years. We wake to the news of Palestinian archives, whole universities, schools, hospitals being reduced to rubble. We fall asleep to horrible videos of men lined up for execution, cries of children trapped below their houses, and the sounds of hungry stomachs. As we write this, as I read this to you, Gaza is being bombed. The death toll is over 45,000. Entire families are being wiped out, and thousands imprisoned all across occupied Palestine. Over 200 journalists have been killed, medical professionals, UN workers, aid workers. They're being threatened, imprisoned, assassinated. I cannot express how satisfying it feels to have your attendance and participation in today's solidarity event. It goes without saying, Palestine and the Palestinians are immensely grateful for your support. I must also emphasize that today marks the 5th consecutive day of the atrocious bombings in Lebanon. Allow me to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists here today, each of whom brings a wealth of experience, insight, and unwavering dedication to the fight for freedom and dignity. We are honored to have Her Excellency Linda Sobeh Ali, the Palestinian ambassador to the Caribbean states. Ambassador Sobeh Ali has been a steadfast voice for the Palestinians, forging critical connections between Palestine and the Caribbean. Through her work, Ambassador Sobeh Ali has championed diplomatic efforts and engaged in humanitarian advocacy across diverse communities, all in the pursuit of raising awareness about the Palestinian struggle for freedom. Her diplomatic leadership and tireless advocacy inspire us all as we work toward a world rooted in justice and peace. It is a privilege to welcome the extraordinary Bisan Owda, an Emmy-award-winning journalist, war reporter, and filmmaker. Born and raised in Gaza, Bisan's work transcends borders, giving voice to the voiceless and shedding light on the harsh realities of life under siege, life under occupation, life in genocide. Through her powerful storytelling, Bisan not only documents the resilience of the Palestinian people, but also calls the world to action. Through the art of storytelling and filmmaking, she has opened a window into her reality, allowing millions around the world to witness the truth. With every story, she begins with the hauntingly powerful words, "Hi, I am Bisan from Gaza, and I am still alive." Words that no one should ever have to say, yet they echo the resilience of a life lived under unimaginable circumstances. Her courage on the front lines and her dedication to truth remind us of the transformative power of journalism. We are equally honored to have with us Faten Elwan, a war reporter for AJ Plus and TRT World News, on the ground. She is a journalist and a tireless advocate for civilians caught in the crossfire of war. Faten has spent years uncovering the untold stories of those impacted by war, particularly women and children. Faten's work not only informs, but compels us to confront the devastating human costs of illegal occupation and to push for the protection of the vulnerable, including journalists. The world has witnessed the shocking brutality and martyrdom of world-renowned journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who was assassinated for reporting the truth. She was also a beloved best friend and colleague of Faten, and we extend our deepest condolences to you, Faten. We remember her, we mourn her, and we honor her legacy. And as Mary Jones once said, we mourn the dead, but we fight like hell for the living. We're joined by Hana Mohamed Dmitriyeva, who is the founder of the Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine. Educated in New York City, Hana worked in the medical field after graduating with a degree in biochemistry with a minor in biology. Now a mom of 4, she serves on various boards and committees, including Precious Angels Charity, a nonprofit and education organization which aims at raising awareness on a very rare neurological disorder called Rett syndrome, and advocating for underrepresented communities, as well as the Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine, a grassroots movement dedicating to advocating for an end to the genocide of Palestinians and a free and liberated Palestine. She shared that her generation was the one that saw the viral image of Jamal al-Dura on the news, crouching down behind a concrete barrier, shielding his son from Israeli soldiers spraying bullets and killing his son as he laid in his arms, while he was pleading with them to stop. Seeing that image as a teenager had a profound and lasting impact on her, forever etched into her memory. Growing up in the Caribbean, she may not have fully grasped the complexities of the situation, only that wars were devastating the Middle East. But that image stayed with her. I'm sure many of you remember it as well, even though it was more than 20 years ago. It serves as another reminder that this genocide did not begin on October 7th, but has been ongoing since 1948. Lastly, it is my pleasure to introduce May Al-Barzinji, a master's graduate in social work from George Mason University. She has dedicated her life to advocating for justice and supporting marginalized communities. Growing up in Washington, D.C., she was exposed to activism for Palestine, which fueled her lifelong passion for social justice. With a career focused on homelessness and poverty, May has worked in both Washington, D.C. and Southern California, connecting vulnerable populations with critical resources. Since moving to Jamaica in 2020, she has furthered her activism by launching 876 Muslims and co-founding the Caribbean Freedom Collective, advocating for justice, equality, and human rights. May's work is driven by her belief in the global interconnectedness of struggles for justice. She will be speaking on advocacy in Jamaica, which is one of the islands that led the anti-apartheid movement for South Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, together, these extraordinary women embody resilience, courage, and the relentless pursuit of justice. They remind us that the struggle for freedom and human rights is not confined by geography, but it is a universal call to action. Bisan and Faten, we are humbled and grateful to have you with us, and we deeply, deeply appreciate the immense challenges you face, not only because it is 2 a.m. in Palestine, but also because you are enduring relentless bombardment. I cannot imagine your fear and anxiety, and I will not pretend to understand your pain, but know that we all respect and admire your courage and the risks you take to educate and appeal to us today. It is nothing short of extraordinary, and we are profoundly grateful for your strength and dedication. Before I proceed with today's webinar, I'd like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Hana Mohamed, and I will be the moderator of this webinar. In other words, you will hear my voice for the entirety of this event. So if you're sitting there wondering, is this the sound of justice in the air, or is it just me talking? It's both. I am a member of the committee that organized this event today, the Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine. I am the founder of Precious Angels Charity, which is an awareness campaign that raises awareness of a rare neurological disability called Rett syndrome. I am a graduate journalist and an activist in the Edinburgh-Gaza Genocide Emergency Committee in the United Kingdom. We're honored to host this webinar to address the grave realities facing Palestinians today and to explore how nations, especially those in the Caribbean, can contribute to the global call for justice. This gathering seeks to amplify voices and perspectives on the ongoing genocide in Palestine. We aim to emphasize not only the need for urgent action by the international community, but also the role that Caribbean states, including our own nation of Guyana, can play in advocating for Palestinian rights on the global stage. As a proud Caribbean person, it is with great optimism and a deep sense of accomplishment that I report a historic achievement that as of May 7th, 2024, all 14 Caribbean CARICOM states now recognize Palestine as a state. This momentous milestone was reached with the recent recognitions from Barbados on April 19th, Jamaica on April 22nd, Trinidad and Tobago on May 2nd, and the Bahamas on May 7th. And I must acknowledge my country, Guyana, which was the first Caribbean state to recognize Palestinian statehood. The heartbreaking and widely broadcasted genocide and ethnic cleansing have made it possible for CARICOM governments to not remain silent or indifferent. In response to Israel's actions, the Belize government bravely and applaudingly suspended diplomatic relations with Israel, setting a powerful example as the only Caribbean state to do so. And now it is time for the rest of the Caribbean nations to take a stand and join in this call for justice and accountability. In this webinar, we'll examine parallels between Guyana and the Caribbean history and the struggle of the Palestinian people, drawing from our shared past of resistance and resilience. Many people are often taken back when I mention this fact that I'm about to tell you, and I'm not surprised because history is frequently taught in a manner that prioritizes convenience over true educational value. The curriculum that we are taught in many instances remains structured in a way that reflects colonial perspectives, rather than offering a comprehensive and critical understanding of historical events. Guyana was once considered as the second refuge for Zionists. Another chapter that reminds us of the colonial mindset of acquisition and dispossession. The idea of establishing a Jewish refuge in what was then British Guyana, as we were under British rule, it emerged during the early 20th century as anti-Semitism in Europe escalated and the plight of Jewish refugees became increasingly dire. In the 1930s, the British government, led by Winston Churchill, a figure that is well praised, considered British Guyana as a potential sanctuary for Jews fleeing Nazi persecution. The proposal was known as the British Guyana Refugee Scheme. It was one of the several attempts to create havens for European Jews in various British territories. Churchill and other British leaders suggested Guyana due to its status as a British colony, with vast undeveloped lands that could potentially be settled. A commission visited Guyana. They tried to assess its viability, and they conclude that our Essequibo and Rupununi regions could support up to 10,000 refugees. Some settlers arrived, but the outbreak of World War II resulted in the British focus to shift, and the Zionist leaders in the West had mixed feelings about this plan because they saw Guyana as an impractical solution due to its climate, geographic remoteness, and economic challenges. So although the British Guyana refugee scheme did not come to fruition, the episode remains a fascinating part of both Guyanese and Palestinian history, as it serves as a reminder of the broader history of colonial powers attempting to solve geopolitical challenges by manipulating the destinies of vulnerable populations. So, ladies and gentlemen, Guyana's history is not so distant from Palestine's. Our land, like Palestine, carries a legacy of colonization, occupation, and exploitation, and the time has come for us to build on these shared histories and direct our resilience towards solidarity with Palestine. Before we proceed, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping rules to ensure our session runs smoothly. This is a Zoom webinar, and as such, if someone you know is experiencing issues joining, let them locate the meeting through the link, sign in, and join. It's as simple as that. Please be advised that due to this being a webinar, Zoom has a maximum limit of 500 people. If you have reached the maximum limit for the Zoom audience, there is no need to worry because I'm live streaming on our Facebook page, the Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine. You can find the stream there. We kindly ask everyone to keep their microphones on mute to avoid any disruptions during the presentations. Please use the chat function for general comments or to share your thoughts with other participants. For questions directed at our panelists, please enter them in the Q&A section. I will do my best to address as many of these questions as possible during the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. Enter your question into the Q&A box, then click send. It's as easy as that. If I do, however, look over your question, you can also like or comment, and this will make it visible to me. If you would like to leave the meeting, click leave meeting at any time. And lastly, please respect each other, as this is a very safe space for raising awareness, spreading education on an important topic that adversely impacts us all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor to introduce our first speaker, Emmy-award winner Bisan Owda. Please join me in welcoming her, as she is not only sacrificing her sleep, but also risking her life to be here with us. This is the level of courage and sacrifice that many of us can scarcely imagine. Bisan, it is with great respect and gratitude that I now hand the mic over to you.
I'm saying probably I'm still sleeping. I forgot to unmute myself. I'm so sorry. Thanks everyone for having me. I'm really thankful. Thanks because you're trying until now, trying until the day 407 to organize and to tell people the truth. That's a really, really big and different thing in our world now, because looks like many people reached the maximum. Many people just showed the solidarity and protested for the first month, 2 months, 3 months. Then what? It has been more than a year now. So I'm really thankful. Oh, thanks for everyone, يعني in advance for being patient. Um, for my يعني speech, let me say, or yeah, updates. So first of all, my name is Bisan Owda. I'm from Palestine, from Gaza Strip. أنا غزاوية, and especially a very green, beautiful, small agricultural town from the north of Gaza Strip called Beit Hanun. Beit Hanun is a very beautiful town, guys. You gotta see Beit Hanun in the spring or at the late months of winter. It's really beautiful. And that's why it's not occupied by the Israeli army, by the way, and emptied by massacring people. But we're gonna talk about this. Before this, I want to introduce my work even before the genocide because I used to be a social activist, a youth activist in the field of the political and social rights for women, youth, and the engagement of women and youth, yani, and the making change and the process of building this society. You know, I was a believer. Okay, I was a deep believer in the UN agencies and unfortunately these INGOs that failed us and left the north of Gaza Strip before anyone else. So we are living this now. Anyways, I also used to be Hakawatiya, a storyteller. Hakawatiya is a very يعني public social not only a job in the old times in the Levant, let me say Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt sometimes. It's not only a job like telling stories for the people, it's also a position, a good social position, because you're reminding people of their culture, their heritage, their history that maybe they sometimes forget because of the occupation, because of the hardships of their lives. So the storyteller is reminding them that they are a great people with a great history that they need to preserve and to build on it. That's why I was a storyteller, but telling the stories of Gaza Strip. Oh my God. I memorize Gaza inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, by my heart. Because in the last 2 years, my 24 hours job was to document everything in Gaza, the geography and the history, the people and the culture, the food and the heritage, everything in Gaza Strip. I've made like 35 to 40 episodes just talking about Gaza and how this small area can create this huge change and have been through all of this, all of these colonizations, even before the Israeli occupation. Gaza has been always the start of everything, has been always the start of resistance in the Levant, in Sham, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. We're talking about even the thousands of years ago. But now, unfortunately, it's still the beginning of the change. It's still the beginning of resistance. It's still the beginning of a new era in history for me. Definitely now the world is moving to make real change, and now the world is pointing at the real criminals behind all of our struggles, not behind only of the Palestinian struggle or the Gazan struggles or supporting a genocidal state or an occupation like Israel, one of the last occupations ever in history, Israel. So Gaza is still the beginning of everything, but for me, the price was so high. On the 7th of October 2023, of course, it was not the beginning actually, because even before that, I survived many escalations. Like talking about 5 to 7 escalations, surviving 27, 28, 2012, 2014. I lost my home and I got displaced. 2019, 2021, a massacre killed 60 people. We're sleeping in my neighborhood, just 100 meters away from me. I was seriously greeting them and talking to them like an hour before them being killed. And then 2024, 2023, 2024, when I lost like cousins, home, got displaced, being homeless for more than a year now, and it's not over yet. So it's not the beginning. And for me, when people are talking about the 7th of October as a beginning, it's totally like misleading. It's totally a lie. It's a lie. No, we were not loud enough, or we were silenced, so you didn't know about any escalation of like in the past 10 years in Gaza, or the occupation itself in the past 76 years in Palestine. By the way, Guyana survived. Guyana survived. Look, colonization is not creative at all. Okay, colonization will all the time search about a reason to colonize your country and to defend it. They need to believe that this land is there, so they can defend the idea of occupation, which is a totally unhuman, illegal thing that anyone can reject. So they found a reason in Palestine. First of all, the economic and the political reasons. In the after the First World War, actually, Palestine was, unfortunately, the Arabic region itself was a part of the Ottoman Empire that was defeated after the First World War, and then the Arabic territories were between Great Britain, France, Italy. So the whole cake was divided, and then they found that why shouldn't we? Why can't we give Palestine? It's a good, with a rich history. Actually, it's weak. It's ours now. Britain are saying this. British are saying this, and there is a reason. The prophets were out from there. The religions, the three religions used to holy this land, so we can find a reason to tell people to go to. So yeah, Guyana survived this. They found a reason. And before 1948, this land was not empty. They killed 15,000 people. They burned 500 cities and villages. They fled. They killed people. They terrified them to leave their villages. And there were 800,000 Palestinians. There are now more than 5 million Palestinians in diaspora. So no one is asking the Israeli occupation what was there before the establishment of your fake state. And that's the main problem. Everyone is denying this. No one is asking this. And they're talking about the 7th of October. So for me, this is the main question in the next phase. What was before the Israeli fake state established on the lands of the Palestinians? Where were those people who came to establish this colony in Palestine? Then after that, you called it the State of Israel. So yeah, this is the main problem for me. But after the 7th of October, I think we got heard more. You know, many people start to say, what is this? Who are these Palestinians? What is the problem? And to discover that the main stream in the media was lying, definitely was lying, and was covering and was manipulating. You know, they were playing with the words, showing always that the Israelis are, first of all, the Israelis' lives worth more than the Arabs' lives. That's the beginning. And that the Palestinians are a whole country. It's not an occupied people. Besieged in areas like Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and totally separated from each others. And they also discovered that what our people doing is not terrorism. Actually, it is resistance. And that's how movements started to talk more about Palestine and the Palestinians and Gaza, especially. But what happened actually since the 7th of October until now is, for me and for many people, is the most dangerous era of the Palestinian cause since the beginning of the occupation, since the beginning of the British colonization, then after that handling the Palestine, the Palestinian lands to Israel in 1948. Why it's the most dangerous? First, it focuses actually, this genocide focuses actually in stealing and emptying the lands. And this is what we are watching in the north of Gaza Strip. The population of the north of Gaza Strip before the genocide was 1.1 million people. The population now is no more than 250,000 people who are now being ethnic cleansed and forced to empty the north or to evacuate their homes in the north towns like Beit Hanun, Jabalia, Beit Lahia, and now the Israelis are talking about the central Gaza, which is the city. Now all the people, the 250,000 people, are in a branch between the northern towns that were emptied during the past 40 days and the south of Gaza Strip where the rest of the people are displaced. So we're talking about 1.9 million people who are displaced now, living in tents, living in horrifying conditions. Tents made of plastic, made of clothes, are worn on the sands because we're living, or most of the displaced people are living in Mawasi area. Mawasi is a strip of land. It's a coastal area. The area is about 14 square kilometers only, and it's as I say it as I said it's sandy nature, so people cannot plant, people cannot live without insects, heat, cold, a lot of things. So those people were kicked out of their homes, of their neighborhoods. They were not kicked out because of I mean the Israelis, the Israeli army did not tell the people to go out or we kill you. No, they started killing people, they started burning people alive, they started sniping people while they are reaching out to find any food, to find any water. They started targeting ambulances, civil defense, or anyone trying to rescue these people, or even to bury the dead bodies that were shattered in the streets. And then people, or some, of course a lot of people, refused to get out of their homes. That's why the death toll unfortunately reached more than 50,000 people to be killed. And many people actually evacuated the areas and came to the south. Type. For me, at the beginning, I refused to leave the north. I refused. With my family, I evacuated my home in the Riman neighborhood and our home in Beit Hanun and went to Shifa Hospital. Yes, Shifa Hospital. Before the Shifa Hospital was targeted, before the Israeli army invaded the Shifa Hospital and destroyed it, I was living in the garden of the hospital for a whole month, using the bathrooms of the patients. We had 200 bathrooms with 60,000 displaced people living inside the hospital. We used the water of the hospital that was not filtered, that was not desalinated. We used a very little amount and limited food. And yeah, we were really living in horrible conditions. I remember the first time it rained, my family and I, we're eight, alhamdulillah, a big family, and we were sleeping in the garden. The tree that we were sleeping under had roots. The roots were so strong, and I used to sleep on a root of them. And I remember that my back was hurting me so much for a whole month, okay? Because the tree is like this, and the roots were over the ground. And then I remember on the 20th of October 2023, for the first time, the tree was dusty after a summer, and it started raining mud over our faces. And then the second day, Baba went to a billboard, and in the street, it was thrown in the street after a bombing. Then he hanged this billboard on the tree to cover us. We didn't have anything from our home. We didn't have clothes. We didn't have a place to take a bath, to take a shower. We didn't have anything. أقسم بالله, I was controlling eating and drinking to manage going to the bathroom once a day. And actually, that's nothing. At least I'm surviving. That's nothing. I don't care. I don't care. I'm surviving. But the 21st or 22nd of October, it was the worst day ever. I just woke up uh, uh, hearing about what happened in Mamadani Hospital, the Baptist Hospital, Al-Ahli Hospital, Al-Arabi Hospital, many names. And 500 shuttered bodies, killed people, where there's no space in Shifa Hospital. So they put these killed bodies in the garden of the hospital, around all of us, around children. And I had to talk to my sister, to my little sister. She's 10 years old. She's 9 years old. And I had to talk to her about this and to describe to her that these people are better than all of us. They are now in Jannah. They got killed by the enemy, and you need to be with mama now, and to be safe now, to go to another side. That was my first month. And of course, the gate of the hospital got bombed. The neighborhoods around the hospital got bombed. I remember also a night, mama woke up, yani all of us, and gave us a piece of cloth that was mine. She put some water on it, so we cover our faces, because the Israeli army dropped phosphor on Shata refugee camp. It was right behind the hospital, and we were sleeping in an open area. So I just can, all of this is nothing. Nothing. I survived. Nothing happened to me, because the Israeli army counted this as the beginning, actually. Everything came after this was burning people alive, targeting schools while people are still in there. We're talking about targeting 65 plus schools, honorable schools used to be shelters. The Israelis knows that there is displaced families in these shelters, bombed hospitals, put them out of service, bombed civil defense vehicles, civil defense men, while trying to get people from under the rubble. That's why we have 10,000 people stuck under the rubble until now, and their families cannot even bury them. They couldn't see them for the last time. So yeah, that was the beginning. Everything I mentioned in my first month of the genocide, which was in Shifa hospital, was just the beginning. In the 10th of November, the Israeli army invaded the Shifa hospital for the first time. For the first time. And it was my nightmare. I have never expected this. I will never imagine that was me before the invading of Shifa. I was telling my brothers and sisters that this will never happen. The Israeli cannot just invade Shifa hospital. And it happened. And in the 10th of November, I just had nothing, because two homes, family homes, and everything was bombed, even the office that I used to work in. So even the schools around the neighborhood, the Rimal neighborhood, I didn't have any place to go. So my family and I decided to go to the south of Gaza Strip. They said that it was a safe path. They said that it was a safe path. They said actually this, and it was not. It was not. On the 10th of November, 2023, I carried 20 kilograms on my back. some canned food, water, some winter clothes, and other 20 kilograms here, carrying my stuff because I'm a filmmaker. Some of my stuff actually, and I have to work. This is my mission now. So I hold my camera, my laptop, and a lot of things. And I was so scared because people evacuated the north before us told us that if you dropped anything on your way to the south, while the tanks and the army are here, just don't dare create a game from the ground because you will be killed immediately. Immediately. Even if your child fall, let him get up and walk behind you. And it was serious. We went to the path, to Salah ad-Din path, Salah ad-Din road. They say it's a safe area, it's a safe path, but it was not. The homes around us were destroyed, demolished. The army, a bulldozer, a D9, a damn D9, like 10 meters height, and tanks and soldiers are calling people whoever they want, taking them, making them take off their clothes, search them, and detain them, take them. And this is not the most terrifying thing. I was walking like this after passing the tanks without watching them, without turning around, with carrying everything and walking for almost 4 hours. I started seeing dead bodies on the ground. They were not buried. They were not decomposed. Dead bodies. One scene that I will never forgive or forget is the scene of body parts, a leg, that I was forced to tell my sister, my little sister, the same sister, Dudu, her name is Dudu, she's 9 years old, that this is not real. And I know that she knows that it's real and that I'm lying at her. Dead bodies on the ground. Of course, some people, because we're Palestinians, we don't forget like how to respect the dead people, even in our worst times. Some people, when they were walking, are taking clothes from their scarves or from their bags and covering the dead bodies, putting on the dead bodies. They didn't even allow us to bury them or cover them or take them to their families. We were covering them with our clothes, so the people coming behind us don't see them. So this dead person who had a dignity and had a life before and was exterminated like this have some respectful death. In the south, it's not safe. 60% of the people killed in the south are these displaced people from the north. It's not safe. And not only this, actually, because the Israeli army is an artist in this, artist in killing people. They started using starvation since the first day for us here in the south. And of course, for the people in the north, they applied a forced starvation. Now, unfortunately, about 96% of the Gazan population is surviving on one or less than one meal a day, relying 100% on the aid assistance and humanitarian assistance. And we are facing a real famine. There's no food security until now. If you search in the history of colonizers, of occupations, of wars, you will find that the starvation was used before in the Second World War. But the Israeli army put 90% of the agricultural areas out of service. They destroyed it. They invaded them. They occupied them in the north of Gaza Strip and the eastern areas. They destroyed the factories. They closed they prevented thousands of aid trucks from entering, and they're until now, until this moment, stuck in Sinai Desert between Palestine and Egypt. And they're controlling the aid trucks entering and not allowing, except a very limited aid trucks. After, of course, some of the food messed up and reached the expiration date. So even when we fled to the south, they now are applying forced starvation and targeting the tents, the people, the hospitals, and etc., etc. So it's not safe in the south or in the north. And one last thing that I want to mention and want to say is that it's not a coincidence. This is not something that they are doing until they finish the resistance. No, it's a whole plan. Everything is planned. That's what we know and see and get informed actually by the announcements by their army, ministers, writers, diplomatic officials, by their embassies, by everyone, that the target and the end game of the genocide is to empty the land, to empty the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, not only the Gaza Strip. So it's not over. Even if we, tomorrow, even if we reached a ceasefire tomorrow, the real solution is to end the occupation, and the real target of the occupation is to end the Palestinian existence in their own lands, in our own lands. That's why they are emptying the north of Gaza Strip and humiliating people while evacuating them. I mean, if they evacuate the group of people and not kill them, they tell them that you will never get back to the north. Go see what the resistance did to you. Go see another place to go to. And actually, the extreme settlers and resettling supporters inside the Israeli government and the Israeli parliament and the Israeli population are telling the same, not only for the Palestinian population, but also for the Israeli population, that you can now invest in Gaza. You can now invest in our new settlement in Gaza. There was once that they took boats from the northern borders of Gaza Strip. The Israeli settlers took boats so they can come across the sea and see Gaza Strip being burned and bombed, so they can enjoy the open air cinema and start thinking about investment in resettling Gaza. So yeah, it is the end game for Israel to end the existence in the Palestinian lands and to correct what they said. They said that this genocide, what they call is the existence war of Israel, is to correct the mistake of letting Palestinians inside Palestine in the West Bank and Gaza in 1948. And they are doing this now to Gaza Strip. And unfortunately, if we didn't move to the West Bank right after the Gaza Strip. Hopefully I didn't take too much. I still have a lot of things to tell, but yeah, maybe I'll just let this to the questions if you still want to know anything. Thanks.
So thank you so much for that, Bisan. That was deeply moving. And while I know you've likely heard this many times, please hear it again. We are with you. We are praying for you, and we are fighting for you. If it offers you any solace, know that we, the people, we hold the power. We hold the power to challenge those in power. We have the power over the people in power. So no matter how defeated you may feel or how outnumbered you might seem by the forces of oppression, remember this: billions of us from all corners of the world are marching. We are protesting for your freedom, day in, day out, for your justice, and for everlasting peace for your people. So thank you, Bisan. It's been an honor to hear you. And I promise you this, we will never give up and we will never abandon you in your suffering. Given that your internet connection may be a bit unstable, and there is, that uncertainty of when the occupying power might disrupt it, I've decided to bring forward the questions. So I have some prepared questions for you. And after we've had the chance to discuss them with the panel, I will open the floor for the audience to ask specific questions to you. I know our audience is eager to hear from you, and we want to make the most out of this opportunity. So for those of you that are here with us, if you can send in your questions now so that Bisan can answer, just type them in the chat section, the Q&A section, and we will get on with that. So my first question to you, Bisan, is how are you doing? How are you?
Oh, it's the first time that anyone asks me this question. Actually, everyone is asking me about the on the ground updates and about Gaza, my beloved Gaza. I feel homesick. I feel homesick. I just want to go home. I had the best home ever. Wallah. My home is on a top roof and was on a top roof. It was destroyed. But I used to see Gaza Sea and Rimal neighborhood and other neighborhoods while drinking my cup of tea each morning. It was warm, was beautiful. I had everything I wanted. But now it's all gone. I feel that I've been homeless for a long time, and it's time to rest. But I can't because I'm in the south and my home was in the north. But I'm feeling okay because I'm surviving, and I feel that I'm accomplishing my mission to document what is happening and to reflect everything happening on the ground. So yeah, a little bit like homesick and helpless, and a little bit feeling that I have something to do and to be strong for.
We know that every story you tell has a human face, a family, a dream torn apart. Can you share one story from your time reporting that has stayed with you, one that embodies the true costs of this ongoing genocide?
Whoa, one story is okay. This is so hard, but maybe I can just um talk about the piece that I was doing until yesterday. I'm working on a piece talking about the production and how Gaza Strip is trying, despite everything, to create hope and love. And I was walking between tents as usual, and a lot of people were planting on front of their tents. You know, it's sandy area and moss area. So I was asking them, "How's working, guys? I want to do like you." And they were like, Alhamdulillah, we're carrying soil from middle Khan Yunis and the eastern areas of Khan Yunis to the west of Khan Yunis so we can mix it with the sand and plant. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, what are you doing? We are surviving barely day by day and you're planting. And they were like each single family told me the same thing. We're creating love and hope. We used to have our own lands. We used to have our own production. We used to be sufficient. And now we're trying, even if we are not producing enough food or not producing anything actually, but something green to break the darkness of the same scenes, the displacement, the tent and the fire and the lines of water and the hunger and everything. It's something that gives hope. So this is the story that I'm working on right now. And the other one in the same piece, the fishing. So there is no meat entering Gaza. Don't believe anything or anyone. I'm telling you the truth, sister. There is no fresh food entering Gaza, and everything they're entering is like canned food. And I feel sick eating canned food every day for 400 days. And these brave fishermen, our beloved fishermen, Gaza had the best coast, like 42 kilometers on the sea. So we know the sea and the sea knows us. Okay. And before the genocide, like 5,000 fishermen used to work on Gaza Sea. Now, people are entering without even boats because most of the fishermen are from the north of Gaza. We have the two seaports in the north of Gaza Strip, and they left their boats and their nets there. They thought it will be a matter of 2 weeks. So they fled. Now, yesterday I was shooting with a fisherman who used the fridge door, okay, to float and swim on it like for 100, 200 meters and start fishing. And I'm like, how did you get the idea? He said that I've been working as a fisherman for 20 years, and they can't stop me. Nothing can stop me. I want fresh protein right now. I want meat right now. I'm like, can you bring me some? And he's like, because the Israeli worships the Israeli boats that targets people even when they are fishing. About 30 fishermen got killed, unfortunately. They shoot them because they are besieging the sea and preventing us from entering more than 200 meters. Okay, so I don't have that much food yani daily. Some people are buying my fishing even before getting out of the sea. People do not have any other options but waiting whatever will be brought by a fisherman. So that's the mentality. This is the Palestinian core. Okay, you enter an area, okay, a destroyed area like Khan Yunis, 90% of the homes and infrastructure are destroyed. You see a man living with his family on one room, remains after the home was destroyed, living under the rubble, literally. I'm putting the Palestinian flag. And I'm like, brother, don't you blame Palestine for everything happening for you? And he's like, Palestine must blame us for everything happening to it. I'm living because I'm a Palestinian and I'm living in a rubble, praising my flag, putting the flag on the rubble and doing like this, guarding the rubble of their homes. This is exactly the Palestinian core and the Palestinian resilience. Even if I can't kick this occupation out of my land, I will at least survive, and then maybe I can in the future. So yeah, this is yesterday's shooting. It was crazy.
It sounds beautiful. My next question, we've witnessed the tragic situation where Israel instructs the Palestinians to evacuate to a so-called safe zone, only for those areas to later be bombed. Do you believe these evacuations were strategically used to make life more unbearable for the Palestinians?
Look, I say it always that Israel is not only working on the ground to kill people, it's working to kill the hearts and minds and mentality of people. It's a psychological warfare. يعني Israel is now working to destroy the demographic fabric, okay, to destroy the idea of a refugee camp, the idea of a neighborhood, the idea of a big family living in the same street, because no one is allowed, even the people of Khan Yunis, no one is allowed to return to their neighborhoods and to put on together everything as it was before the genocide. Until now, daily evacuation orders, weekly evacuation orders in Khan Yunis and the middle area. Even if they are not invading the place, even if they are busy in emptying and killing the people in the north of Gaza Strip. They're ordering people to evacuate. They're terrifying them, scaring them, so people are not able to hold on anymore or to survive this life or even to be mentally resilient and يعني ready to survive this genocide. Daily, people are daily holding their mobiles, their ID cards, their children, and running in the streets, even if there is no ground invasion, because they they tell them to evacuate and they start random bomb the areas. So actually, Israel used it. That's true. They used the evacuation orders to make this fear in the depth of the Palestinian souls and the Palestinian minds, even in the unconsciousness of the Palestinians. They cannot feel stable. They cannot feel home. They need to reallocate all the time. So they used it. And in many places, they used it and they succeeded to empty the places, like what happened in the north of Gaza Strip. Unfortunately, even now, after 40 days, I'm not talking about the north in general, I'm talking about the northern agricultural towns. Beit Hanun, Jabali, and Beit Lahiya. For 40 days now, they evacuated these three towns, killed 2,000 people, 1,000 are missed, 1,000 are detained and taken to illegal detention centers, and the rest of the people escaped.
What can we do? What can the global community do? What can the media do to raise awareness of the true nature that you're saying, the true nature of these so-called safe zones? What can we do?
I think, I believe actually, that raising awareness is not the main issue that we need to worry about now, because awareness has been raised, truth has been documented, and people were informed for months now, for a year now, but what is happening, and that it is a live stream genocide, and that you are all witnessing, and your governments are supporting. So on behalf of you, this government is supporting a genocide, even if you are rejecting this genocide. Now I think it's time to act. It's time to escalate. It's time to be terrifying for your governments and for the Israeli occupation. And actually, I don't I have never like found an example better than what happened in Amsterdam. So the Israeli soldiers, fans, are walking on the streets, terrifying people, cursing them, cursing Arabs, calling for the raping of Arabs, praising killing children because they're saying that no schools because there is no children in Gaza. And then when they when the entire world is silent, on the 6th of November, the 7th of November, they did the same thing. And when some Arabs just taught them a lesson to stop talking shit about Arabs and to stop calling for the rape of Arabs, the Western media started calling it Holocaust again, pogroms again. So looks like we are in a world where we are not allowed to tell or to speak a single word against the Zionists and against what is happening, even after a year of a genocide. So talking is not enough. What is enough is to act. I remember last May when the Israeli ministers were terrified, calling the people in the universities, the students in the universities, that they are terrorists. And they are out of their minds and they need to be punished and they need to be detained. I'm like, some students terrified you that much? So it's the action, the protesting, closing universities, de-investing, calling for the decolonization, calling for the free Palestine, marching for Gaza, I was thinking, I was imagining the scene. People are marching from everywhere to Gaza. No one will stop them because this land, this earth is ours. It's not for the governments to prevent us or to tell us what to do and what to do not. Because their embassies are safe in our lands. Our governments are supporting them. We are not boycotting them enough. All of these things, they are carrying on a genocide. So we need to stop all of these things and just terrify them. Terrify them. We know you. We know that you are criminals, and you need to be stopped. We are boycotting you. We are organizing against your genocidal acts. We are suing you. We are calling our entities and universities to stop any investing with you. That's it. You need to react like this. And Israel is a colonial project, and any project will stop when it's not profitable. So when Israel costs the West, costs the US, costs all the genocide supporters more than it earns for them, it will definitely stop. People are so far, unfortunately, most of them, a lot of them, are tolerant with what is happening, and they feel that they're doing okay when they're protesting once a month, for example, which is not okay. You need to strike, for example. This is the escalation. To strike, to call your entities to defund, to boycott. That's it. We need this. This will stop not only the genocide in Gaza, but the war in Lebanon, the genocide that is expanding now to Lebanon, that killed more than 3,000 people. Most of them are children and women. Again, damaged 100,000 homes, destroyed the beautiful Beirut and Lebanon. So this will stop the acts, the genocidal acts, not only in Gaza, but Lebanon, the West Bank, and soon, inshallah, the end of the occupation in general. We need to organize. We need to be creative to stop the genocide. It's not only about protesting. It's not only about changing my profile into a watermelon. It's not only about putting kufiya in public. It's also about raising your voice, informing yourself and educating yourself about the Palestinian history and about how these people, the Israelis, are now genociding people, killing people, massacring people in Gaza, Lebanon, and the West Bank without even being shameful. So when you are aware of everything, you can have your own techniques and mechanisms to react and to do enough to stop the genocide.
I agree. I agree completely. Action speaks louder than words, yeah? Israel, they're competing, they're committing so many war crimes, yet they're pardoned or they're ignored by the international community. And this includes the attack on journalists. They're actively silencing anyone that shows the world the truth. The journalists, news reporters, it's no lie that they're trying to silence the truth. They're trying to stifle freedom of press. How do you think journalists and media outlets can hold Israel accountable for their violation?
Okay. So documenting is a very important tool, not only for now, in the present, to stop the genocide, but also in the future, to hold Israel accountable and to sue Israel and the war criminals in Israel and the Israeli army. So documenting is a very important thing. And at the beginning, they were like one step before us, the Israeli army, Israel, when they prevented any journalist from entering Gaza, when they closed the borders and prevented anyone from entering Gaza. They thought that by this, they're doing enough. And by this, no one will hear or see what is happening. But ironically, subhanallah, the journalists of Gaza and the people who became journalists. I include me. I'm not a journalist. I just became because of the circumstances and because everything was happening. It was crazy and it's still crazy, and I needed to do anything. And hundreds of youth are like me. And the advantage behind this is that we're not professional. That's true. We're not professional like the Western journalists, but we are adopting the Palestinian narrative and reflecting what is happening on the ground like it is, without adopting the Israeli narrative and lying. The Western journalists, if they entered Gaza Strip, they would have been lying for a whole year now. And that's their bad luck. They tried to silence us, but they made our voices higher. So that's why it's really important. And because they know it's really important, they have been targeting the journalists and the journalists' families and the journalists' entities and the channels deliberately since the beginning of the genocide. They've killed more than 190 journalists in cold blood. Who is not killed was injured. Who was not injured lost his family, his home, and everything. So yes, and until now, I mean, we have a friend, we have a colleague, Fadi Louhedi. Fadi Louhedi is paralyzed after he got shot in the neck while covering the updates in Jabalia, like a month ago, less than a month ago. And they are not allowing him to go outside to have the medical treatment needed to prevent a whole paralyzed. And unfortunately, his family is trying to strike now, food strike, to do anything, but no one is listening. And the Israeli army is not allowing this guy to go outside. He's like 24 years old. He's paralyzed because he was holding his mobile. So yeah, they know exactly how dangerous is it to let the people of the world know and see that Israel, the angel of democracy, the angel of the Middle East, the bad terrorist Middle East, looks like they were lying for 7 decades.
In a world, we're sadly living in a world where the voices of the oppressed are ignored. It's erased. But you've courageously stood at the heart of this destruction. All of the stories you said where you were walking and you saw bodies on the ground. You stood there despite seeing that. You chose to speak out. You chose to resist. You document. And anyone in your shoes, including myself, would have already given up or they would have fled, which is a completely normal human reaction. But you chose to stay and remain steadfast and resilient. What keeps you motivated to stay in the front lines for 406 days?
I don't think it's an option. I don't think it's something that I can choose. I was born to do this. I was born to be Gazan. Being Gazan have many things yani, to do. Yani. Being Gazan is that not that easy. So you need to sacrifice. So Gaza can accept you as a beloved son or daughter. But I think, okay, so I'm from Bet Hanoun. In 2007, the Israeli army invaded our land and invaded the land of the orange land of my grandfather. I used to play there with my grandfather. I was like 8 years old, and I was planting with them. We have in Arabic yafatin something called ammal. Al-ammal is to water trees, to run the water from a high area to the trees. Ammal. I don't know what does it mean, but yani watering the oranges and being fully covered by mud and returning to my mother like this, proud that I was working with my grandfather on the farm. And then in 2007, in a blink, in 10 minutes, The Israeli bulldozers destroyed the land, destroyed it immediately, and like flipped the soil. In the second, next morning, we saw the roots, of our, we saw the roots of our words, of our trees. They destroyed the land, and my grandfather was not able to accept this. He got a brain stroke and he died because of something in Arabic we call gahr. Gahr is being sad and angry and helpless at the same time. And that was the first time to know what does it mean occupation. What does it mean the Israeli army? They're the people that turn everything green into brown and black. They're the people who take our beloved ones. And I was so sad. I didn't realize that this, that I was traumatized by this, and that this will be the thing that moves me all the time. My grandfather, who loved the oranges more than life and died because his oranges were destroyed. And that turning green into black is not a forgivable thing, and is not a thing that we can let them go with. That's why I just want to stay here, because I don't want to feel homesick more than this. I feel homesick while I'm at the same soil, guys. Come on. I feel homesick while in the south of Gaza Strip. Imagine what will I feel if I am outside Gaza Strip. No, that's my homeland. If I must die, I just want to die here. Definitely 100%. No other places. I'm Gazan. أنا غزاوية, and I'm so proud. And Gaza is my land in the good days, good times, reporting as حكوتي, the good days of Gaza, and the bad days of the genocide, because it's the same story. It's only different sections of the story, you know? Gaza is a full story. I'm a part of it, and I'm happy to be in this part. And I'm sure that the work that we are doing is holy. This is the beginning of the change of the entire world. I'm here in this piece of land that many people really, really wish to be in, now helping people and reporting. So I'm here because I have no other places to be in but here. That's why I'm here. Gaza. Oh my God. Gaza is a magical place. You will understand what I'm talking about when you are in Gaza. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, thank you very much, Bisan. Our next speaker, I would like to introduce Ms. Faten Elwan, who will give us insight into the daily lives. How are you, Faten?
I'm impressed by this little kid, Hadi. The first time I had an interaction with her when she showed on my news feed, talking to herself in an elevator, for God's sake. Watching you evolving to this and maintaining this fucking smile that you have in this darkness, Bisan, like you always listen. Some people, like I know for some people, like for Bisan, like she's been watching me for years, but I am like I don't want to say I envy you. Like I look up to you, yeah, Bisan. We say that word Zara. Zara is that an Arabic word that means that smart troublemaker kid that knows what she's doing. And though I know that you're tired and exhausted, I'm sorry, I love Guyana and I respect the resilience and all the slavery and all the stories, but probably if we read a book of history, we can recap all this. But this moment of Bisan and this phase that she's trying to collect the strength just to show it in front of you people over here, let me tell you one thing, she's trying so hard not to cry, and I'm telling you, you're in a safe place, Bisan. You can cry as much as you want. And this is what occupation does. This is what occupation do to your soul, but yeah, ukhti, the Gazan people like are different. Like I swear to God, like the amount of strength, that kind of strength that merged with sadness and craziness and destruction that is grown in a like, it's out of this place. It's a thing that you cannot even teach in psychology or in school. And I think Bisan, like, as we both work with Aged Plus, I'm sure that they called you and told you that you have to have sessions with psychiatrists to talk about it. Did you try it? I did. But then you understand that even those psychiatrists need a lifetime to understand how to talk to us because the amount of trauma that we have. Oh, no electricity.
It was not electricity. It was a small battery charged by a solar cell for the whole day to maintain these 2 hours. You saw me enough.
You know what's so funny, Bisan? Like, let me tell you, like, listen, just like when I turned off the camera and I disappeared for a while, it's because the whole house shaked. The funny part, the ugly part is when the house shake in here, that means automatically that they're destroying houses in Gaza. And this is how far yet how close we are from understanding what's going over there. And just again, everyone over here, I really want you to go and watch Bisan's profile because you know Bisan during the war. But I want you to go a bit down, 410 days down, and get to know the real life of Gaza. The Gaza that they want to make it sound like a devil place, like an ugly place, like a place where they want to turn it into an out of control slavery, colonial system that Guyana lived, but they cannot redo it again because history cannot repeat itself. And at the time that we Palestinian have a Nelson Mandela status in Atire, and we studied all about the resilience of Africa and Guyana and the Caribbeans and all those people who fought, who did fight for their own rights of existing, of being, of refusing the slavery that is repeating itself in so many different ugly ways by the Israelis in Palestine, in the West Bank and in Gaza. It cannot be repeated again. And you know, it's not only Israeli who said never again means never again to everyone. Never again means the world is saying that. Those people who went through occupation, through resistance, through freedom movement, now those are the people of the world. And this is what's happening over here. Bisan is a strong soul that regardless, and yes, I'm going to take off your time and everyone over here time to give Bisan some admiration and courage word, because probably this is what she needs at the time more than speaking about anything else. Because Bisan, I know you're exhausted, I know you're tired, and I know you're burned out, and I know that you want a couch and coffee in your own space. But trust me, what you're doing is magical. What you did is what I failed in doing for 25 years, in which I was chased by a D9 bulldozer, the D9. And for you guys, might sound like a D9, but it's like a 3-level store building right next to you. I was shot 3 times. I was in jail several times, but I never managed to do the breaking through that you, Bisan, and those beautiful, I will call you children. I will insist on calling you children. And I will keep on calling you children because you children, with your purity and your not knowing journalism, in not editing, in not faking, in not staging, in not going into the editorial line, the fake, beautiful 2-3 minutes with the soundbite and the beautiful cuts and all what I studied. And I wasted 25 years of my life doing. You magically, the children of Gaza, managed for the first time ever in history to show the ugly picture of the occupation that catch you in the heart and the soul of your day-to-day living. You want to talk about slavery and colonialism? It's in everyday life. In me being able to talk to Bisan, it took me 3 days to get to her. It took me being word dead for many nights, not knowing if she's alive or not, because she disappeared from the internet because they do a blackout to cover on their crimes. And suddenly this stranger that I never met in my life now is one of my daughters that I worry about all the time. And it's the soul and the core of everything that they're doing. We saw the history, but the history is repeating itself in both Gaza and the West Bank. And she pointed the finger to the West Bank. And what the West Bank is going through is not just a colonial occupation. It's not a settlers colonialism occupation. It's a white, you know all about the white supremacy, but now we have the Jew supremacy, in which I'm not even a 10th class citizen in this homeland that I grew up in, and I used to move freely between it. No, we have now a settler who's only 13 years old, who have the guts, protected by a terrorist government. And now we need to really start stating out the word, the state of terrorism, because this is what Israel is. This is what it's doing. And it's being supported by only 3 powers in the world that have a business deal called sell weapons, occupy land, make business. And this is on the blood of the Palestinians. And moving from one city to another city, you want to talk about Holocaust? Someone ripped you that title and that name, and it's you who ripped yourself and gave yourself. Sometimes I feel like Israel is even competing with Hitler. And no, you're not going to be, or we're not going to be having the stigma of being the victims of the Holocaust. We need to be the ones who caused this title to someone else, as they want to erase the era of Hitler by creating a new era in Palestine. And this is what's happening on the ground. When you talk about restriction of movement, restriction of entry of food and good, when you talk about restrictions of freedom of speaking, when you talk about someone easily coming to your home, ripping off your house, your identity, your existence, your right of picking up your olive tree, stealing up the land, turning the West Bank into concentration camps. And this is what's happening over here. We have concentration camp closed by a gate by 9 to 5. And this is what I started to call, they're turning us into a zoo, a big zoo that have an opening our gates and closing our gates. If you don't rush and leave to work and come back during this time, then gone. You will sleep in the middle of the night in the street, and guaranteeing you that you will be attacked by settlers who are being weaponized by the government. And those are the same settlers group that once the Israeli government itself gave them the title of terrorist group, now is being funded by the government. The Minister of National Security is the godfather of those settlers, those settlements, this mindset, and this terrorist group that is rolling the West Bank in every single aspect. And we have the other god of terrorism, which is Smotrich, in which I say, like, we have the beautiful face of Netanyahu and the devil face of triangle of Smotrich and Ben Gvir, and they are the one drawing the new colonialism settlement state in the West Bank and in Gaza. Gaza is being ripped or separated into 3 concentration camps. In the West Bank, we have 750 gates, yellow gates. We call them the yellow gates. And it's simply a piece of metal that is placed on 2 cement blocks. One soldier will come and close that gate, ruin your life, and one soldier will come and open it according to their hours. And this is the new slavery system in the West Bank. No one, and Bisan is the same. Whenever I have a mission or work to do, either in Jenin, Tulkarem, or even going to Bir Zayt, that is only 15 minutes away from the center of Ramallah, I always call my person. I'm sure with Bisan have the same thing. Everyone has a person, not a person to share your joy love with or what happened with you during the day. No, someone who knows your password, who know your bank account, who know all your information, who know where you're going. So if you get killed or died while you're filming a story, will know how to do it. And this person will not be your best friend because your best friend will be devastated. It will not be your mom or one of your brothers and sisters. It will be someone that you trusted through a distance on your whole secret and entire life. And this is how every Palestinian, I would love to tell you that it's only journalists that do this, but because everyone has to cross this gate, never knowing when you're going to come back. One day I was going to my friend's mother's funeral in Hizma, and there is a gate, and there is 3 gates, not 1 gate, and it's only a 10 minutes drive between Ramallah and Hizma, that we have the apartheid system, in which now the road 60 that we used to go through between Ramallah and Hizma is now only collectively being used by settlers. Palestinians are not allowed to drive on this road. We have special roads for settlers, and the rest of the Palestinians need, instead of crossing a 5 minutes checkpoint, they need to drive to 45 minutes around that checkpoint or that gate in order to cross to the other side. So I'm a fast driver. I love to speed. And, we are on the run all the time, and you need to put all the news. So I was driving fast because I'm late for the funeral. And then on the conjunction, there was a sudden checkpoint in which the Israeli soldier freaked out from my speed. So suddenly I have soldiers shouting with 7 soldiers pointing their guns toward my car. And only because they didn't freak out enough, they didn't pull the trigger. And me and my friend in the car were not killed on the way to our friend's mother's funeral because they just freaked out. And probably if he freaked out enough and he pulled the trigger and killed me and my friend, we will be accused automatically of trying to conduct an attack against Israel and against those soldiers. And that automatically means that my body will be confiscated, A. My family will be under investigation and arrest, B. Then there will be a judgment by the court to come and destroy the house and arrest my brother and screw their life for the rest of their life of just a 1 second of the soldier freaking out on a checkpoint because I was late. And I was speeding. And that summarized simply how throughout 780 checkpoints, they make sure throughout the road on the cement blocks, there is someone, a soldier, pointing a gun to your head. If you drive, regardless how it's a Jeep or a car, you will always find a gun pointed to your head. And this is how colonial state works. They want to freak you out all the time. They want to show you that we are in power. And you are only 1 trigger away from our shots. So you see the guns being pointed at your head throughout any drive that you're going to do, either to go visit your sister or your friends, or go to a funeral, or go to cover a story. We're talking about journalists. In Jenin and Tulkarem, I was wearing my whole gear It was clear I'm a journalist. Probably you all saw me being chased by a bulldozer, by the D9 bulldozer. And then after that, all of the journalists were chased with me all the way to the parking lot. And he was insulting my mother. Our culture is rough. Anyone that comes close to our mother, it will be blood falling. Yani. So they studied our culture. They studied our mindset. They know how to pull the trigger. So just by cursing my mom, I stood in front of this bulldozer. I forgot that there is a D9 and a soldier standing in front of me, and you just start insult them back. You don't come near my mother, Habibi. Mother is a red line. You don't do it. And this is what they use on every checkpoint. Insulting by your mother or your culture or your sister. And this is a gender-based abuse that is being used by the army at the time that they talk about, Palestinian conducting rape and sexual assault, gender-based assault on the 7th of October. But a soldier who is a tourist undercover in Portugal today, cursing to rape every Palestinian woman, or a soldier telling me that he's going to rape me and rape my mom, or curse me and curse my mom. This is not a gender-based. This is normal, Habibi. I mean, you can come and insult me and I will be, yes, Habibi, come and insult me more. This is one of the stories. Then he will come, like in Tulkarem, they have this immunity that they can do whatever they want. They know they will not be held accountable. So we were 7 journalists standing behind our cameras. And then one soldier, after he shot 3 of our journalist friends by targeting their cars, he came to us and said, like, how are you doing? And I said, alhamdulillah, good. He pointed his own gun, his personal gun. He pointed it out and he started shooting over our heads. I was shot 3 times. 2 of them, I was shot by purpose. He held the gun. I was stupid back then. I was young, like Bisan. It was during the second intifada. And I was working while going to university and coming back. So there was a checkpoint and they called me saying that you need to come back to Ramallah. There is a big incident that is taking place. So I needed to cross the checkpoint coming back from school. And there was a dolphinario attack, which was like back then it was a suicide attack in one of the discotheque. And they made sure that because the people who were killed were Russian Jews or Israelis or Zionists, like let's clear it out, Zionists, so they will not put us in the track of Jews and Zionists. And so they got the soldier to serve on that checkpoint from Russian Zionist. So I always have my microphone with me, and I was thinking stupidly that if I show that I'm a journalist, then I will easily be crossing to do my job. So the soldier saw me and he was like pointing the gun at me, and I'm talking about like 3 meters away. So he was pointing the gun at me, and I was like, they taught me at university that I'm protected. I'm the 4th authority and he cannot do anything to me. And I was doing this with my mic. He was pointing the gun and me pointing my mic. And then he shot me. And I said, like, he shot me in the leg, and I was wearing my favorite like olive green pants that was in fashion, trendy back then, and he burned my pants. When you get shot in the beginning, you don't feel the pain. You just feel that something hit you, but you will not feel it because it's too hot yet. And I looked at him and I said, I walked toward him and I grabbed him from his chest. I said, like, do you realize what the F you just did? And he said, oh yeah, I just shot you. I was like you will not find enough words but to curse. Like, you're sick. People, you're sick. Like, they get the most sick, psycho people to serve on the ground. And let me tell you one thing. All those videos that we see about the army conducting all the crimes in Gaza is totally new. Before, the army were not allowed to even have a smartphone. They were not allowed to put any single video or tell where they are. This documentation of them committing their crimes is a decision. It's not by coincidence. It is a decision by the government, by the Israeli army, to show that they are the new Nazi. And we have to establish the new Nazi word, and we need to establish as well what does an anti-Palestinian mean. And that's it.
Thank you, Faten. Your words, it deeply moved us. It deeply moved me. I am at a loss for words to truly capture the weight of courage and strength that you've shown. It's definitely not easy. And your unwavering commitment to truth, to justice, and the dignity of the Palestinian people is a beacon of hope in these dark times. You've given us more than just the presentation. You've told us your story. You've shared your heart, your resilience, and your pain. And on behalf of everyone here, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your work and for being a voice for those who may have no voice. You know, your bravery inspires us to continue this fight. I see, Bisan, you had your hand up.
I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
I just know about the last.
I'm sorry.
I just know.
Just have us our next speaker just to give her presentation, and then we'll go into questions.
Yeah. Okay. I'm waiting.
Okay. So please welcome our next speaker, Ms. Hana Mohamed Dmitriyeva.
Thank you, Hadia, for the warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings wherever you are tuning in. My name is Hana Dmitriyeva, and I am honored to be included on this panel today amongst these incredible women. Before I begin, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our esteemed panelists, in particular to Bisan and Faten, whose courage and resilience inspire us all. Thank you for sharing your voice and your lived experiences so that the world can understand even a glimpse of the horror Palestinians live through day after day. Their collective efforts are a beacon of hope for all of us here in the Caribbean, standing in solidarity with you. Yani, the conditions you have described in the tents, Bisan, are unbearable. God protect you. God protect your family. And Faten telling us about the person that each journalist in Gaza has, that one person who knows all their credentials, their personal information, literally broke my heart. God keep you and give you the strength, give you both the strength to continue to survive, to continue to fight, to continue to show the world the atrocities of the brutal occupation that is Israel, to see a free Palestine, but to survive, both of you, to survive and all your families. I want to start to say that, like most Guyanese, I come from a family whose very history mirrors the struggle of the Palestinian people. My grandparents, one of Indian descent and the other of Portuguese, were enslaved, tortured, and oppressed under British colonial rule in Guyana. And like most Guyanese, the stories of our ancestors' resilience against forced labor, exploitation, and dehumanization have deeply shaped our own understanding of oppression and resistance. This is why when we look at Palestinians' history, we see the same colonial blueprint, the British mandate that paved the way for the dispossession and the suffering of the Palestinian people. The same empire that dehumanized the ancestors of Guyanese people played a central role in the ethnic cleansing. And I say ethnic cleansing because that is exactly what it is that is unfolding in Gaza today. So I think it's a particularly important time for Guyanese people to reflect on what's going on in Gaza and what that actually means for us now as a once colonized country. I think that here in Guyana, we share a tremendous allyship with the Palestinian people and the Palestinian struggle for freedom, because we know what it is like to be colonized. Guyana gained its independence from Britain back in 1966, and this colonial imperialist power has undeniably left a negative impact on Guyana's economy and its social systems even today. Nearly 60 years later, the repercussions of these impacts are still palpable. And the poverty, we feel these effects today as a developing and former colonized country. If I delve a bit further, just to give you some of the history, Guyana faced the tragic genocide of its indigenous peoples during the period when Christopher Columbus claimed to have discovered the Caribbean, where he, along with other European settlers, led violent attacks in search of gold. And this onslaught displaced the indigenous population from the coastal areas to the tortuous forests, where they were forced to stay. This forced displacement and subsequent conflicts amounted to a genocidal massacre on the indigenous people, contributing to the Spanish conquest. And similarly, the Israeli occupation of Palestine parallels this pattern, where they enter Palestine, displaced its native inhabitants, and asserted control over the land. Now, the Spanish conquest was not the only colonial regime Guyana has had. Guyana was also colonized by the Dutch, the French, and in 1796, the British, who then remained in control. The sugar industry in Guyana thrived on the backs of enslaved Africans and later indentured laborers, mostly from India. The brutal system of slavery inflicted immense suffering and shaped the socioeconomic landscape, leaving lasting scars on Guyanese society. Indentured labor, though different in form, perpetuated similar cycles of exploitation, with workers enduring harsh conditions on sugar plantations. Palestinians who live in Gaza have been forced to live in a restrictive, open-air prison for more than 17 years, with limited access to food, water, and emergency supplies. Guyana's history of slavery and indentured servitude during colonial times, where basic human rights were stripped away, including access to education, healthcare, and fair wages, where land ownership rights were often denied, and harsh working conditions prevailed on plantations. I think this historical connection allows Guyanese and Caribbean people at large to relate on a more personal level to the Palestinian struggle. And so, yes, I think Guyanese solidarity, along with solidarity of the rest of the Caribbean nations for Palestinians, is absolutely rooted in historical connections and in shared struggles and in a commitment to justice and human rights. From a Guyanese perspective, it's been so encouraging to see people mobilize and come out in the hundreds to the streets in solidarity with Palestine. The population in Guyana is just under 1 million people, according to recent data reports, around 816,000. So to mobilize a crowd of such magnitude is truly encouraging. Since the beginning of the genocide, we have seen a consistent wave of support from the local population in Guyana. Every few weeks, there's another demonstration, another protest, another picket. Recently, there was a car rally titled Wheels of Solidarity, which saw more than 300 cars rallying in support of Palestine, where the meeting point for this rally was the Coffee Monument, which by no means was a random choice. In fact, every Guyanese can tell you what is the Coffee Monument. It was a monument dedicated to the resistance leader of a famous slave rebellion in 1763, which eventually anticipated the emancipation of slavery in Guyana. Solidarity groups in Guyana organized protests, rallies. They've even done a petition calling on our president to sever all diplomatic ties with Israel. A pivotal moment in Guyana's advocacy came when former US President Bill Clinton visited Guyana, recognizing his role in the policies that contributed to the Palestinians' plight. Guyanese activists quickly organized the protest and sent a clear message of resistance to him. Our efforts in Guyana align with the broader activism across the Caribbean. In Trinidad, Curacao, Jamaica, and other islands, Belize, vigils and demonstrations have been held, and activists have demanded their governments to stand in solidarity with the oppressed people of Palestine. This regional commitment highlights the Caribbean's shared history of colonial resistance and its moral responsibility to advocate for justice. I believe it's important to highlight that Guyana has a significant role in diplomatic relations with Palestine. As Hadia had mentioned previously, we are very proud. Guyanese are very proud that we were the first member of CARICOM to establish formal ties with Palestine. Guyana's decision since January 2011 to recognize Palestine as a free, independent, and sovereign state based on its 1967 borders has showcased its commitment to fostering international relations beyond just its immediate geographic region. By taking these steps, Guyana has not only solidified its bilateral relationship with Palestine, but also has positioned itself as an advocate for Palestinian rights within the international community. And I believe this commitment reflects Guyana's broader foreign policy objectives of promoting peace on a more global stage. Guyana has also had a history of diplomatic support for Palestinian rights at the United Nations and other international forums. In October 2023, shortly after the genocide began at the United Nations Security Council, Guyana's permanent representative to the United Nations defended her abstention from voting on the US-sponsored Security Council resolution on Gaza by making it crystal clear that Guyana would not support a resolution that did not call for an immediate and an unequivocal ceasefire. Moreover, Guyana's head of state has called for a ceasefire in Gaza since October 2023, and he has reiterated this call repeatedly at many forums thereafter, including his address to the nation on the 54th Republic anniversary, condemning it, as quoted in his words, the first ever televised genocide. I think that Guyanese are very proud that historically we have always taken a different approach by furthering the Palestinian cause. While I am very proud of my country, we cannot and we should not ignore Guyana's bilateral relations with the occupying power Israel. And I think that the reasons Guyanese are outraged and willing to take to the streets now isn't because the genocide, or rather the ethnic cleansing, is new, but because of the sense of urgency that we have with 2 million people on the brink of starvation. And so I think that we know that if we don't act now, if we don't go out to protest, to boycott, to put pressure on our governments, to demand our leaders to sever ties, to isolate Israel, more and more lives will be lost. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hannah. That was incredibly insightful and heartfelt. And as a fellow Guyanese myself, I share in the pride of our history, but I also share in the disappointment. There is still so much more to be done. And as Bisan so powerfully reminded us earlier, words alone are not enough. Actions must follow. And as you rightfully pointed out, Hannah, our own freedom fighter, Kofi, he stood for justice. He led a rebellion for freedom. He fought. and he is celebrated as a hero, as he should be, as anyone fighting for their basic rights and humanity should be. So why is it that Palestinians who are resisting occupation and fighting for their survival are so often dehumanized? We need collaborative efforts. And yes, Bisan, your hand is up now. So
Yes, I'm so sorry for keep jumping in, but I don't have battery on my laptop. There is no electricity. So I just wanna thank Hannah for the insights and for talking about Guyana's position actually. For me, I'll just I wanna talk more. I don't have a charger. I want to talk more about and clarify the 1967 borders and how it's dangerous to deny that Israel Aslan did not have the right to exist because it is an occupied land, even the lands of 1948. I think I can let Faten to talk about this and to clarify this because now countries are talking about the Palestinian state and the 1967 borders that is Israel, by the way, violating and invading even now by building settlements in the West Bank and occupying Gaza Strip. But in general, the 1967 borders are illegal, and Israel did not have the right to exist from the beginning. Maybe Faten will talk about this more. And I have a question for Faten actually. Faten, you didn't talk about the aggression of the Israeli settlers, especially after the 7th of October 2023, and how they are empowered to burn your homes, your streets, your cars during day and night. How they can kick people out, like from Masafiriyata, from other villages, from the just start beating them and even with guns and all of this with the protection of the Israeli army. I think we need also to talk to us more because even the coverage in the West Bank is not enough because all eyes are on Gaza. And I'm so sorry if I just cut the connection, but because of the electricity, sorry.
So, Bisan, listen, if we go back to the Balfour Declaration, it was clear, giving the people without a land with people. So it's clear, like even the statement is clear. It's ethnic cleansing within the same occupier who, as you said, it's go back to how they ruined and the resistance in Guyana and how it built itself, how they destroyed the system and the future, the ethnic cleansing, the land threats. All of this is just a repetition from the same occupier that is extending, looking, okay, let's see who's next. Like, okay, so people of Israel didn't like the land of Guyana. Like, it wasn't cool enough for them. The temperature was not cool enough for them. So this is why they didn't choose to go there. They wanted something more Mediterranean, something in the center, something that will keep them close to where they originally came from Europe. This is why Guyana, this is why we're having this conference at 3:00 in the morning, Palestinian time, because it's too far for them to speak to their relatives in Europe. You know, not everyone agreed to be part of this colonial system and coming and occupying Palestinian land. And like, we came out from the space. Like my grandfather came from out of the space. We did not exist here. There was no Palestine. There is no 48. There is no 67. There is nothing. We are creation of outer space. We are illusional people living in here. So we are illusioning that we have a land called Palestine. Though if you go to the sewage cover, you can have the stamp of Palestine. Even in Germany, for God's sake, even in Germany, there is a two plot in one of the historic places where where what they call the Holocaust, and it is ugly what happened, and it is the Holocaust, but the people, the victims of the Holocaust, are denying what's happening in Gaza, are denying the land theft that is happening in the West Bank. And if we want to talk about the 67 border, let's go back to the 48. All of them are not illegal. All of them is occupation. All of them should not exist. Even your grandpa orange field that was in the beginning taken in Jaffa and then in Akka and then all the way to Gaza, all of this is not legal. All of it's occupation. All of it became in the rejection of Guyana and other areas in Africa. And what drives me crazy is how I always wanted to be a journalist to tell the truth. And then when I grew up, I discovered only that all the media outlet is nothing but a business deal kept to give the story until now. Like Piers Morgan have the guts to go on air and still talk about the beheaded babies and the raping, and all those stories are the audacity of lying and keep on lying and believing the lie on and on and on is crazy. But it's clear. We have businessmen in power and they are controlling the media, and wherever you work or however you work, it will not be enough to fake the story. So Bisan says, thank you all for giving her the time. Her laptop the battery is off, and I love you Bisan حبيبتي. I just told them that you say thank you and بحبك كتير يا بنت الناس. هلا بس اخلص برم عشان تركتي لي السؤال وهربتي، برجع لك نامي شوي وريحي. بحبك يا بنتي.
Please tell her we love her too and we thank her
Wait, what?
We love you so much, Bisan. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for taking the
Love you, Bisan. We love you. We're here for you. We're standing in solidarity with you.
We all love
All
you.
Guyanese and all Caribbean people. Stay strong. Be strong.
They're taking us on a vacation to the Caribbean once the war is over.
100%.
You know what's so nice about the Caribbean, that for us, like when you hear the Caribbean, you hear about the beauty of the beach and the sand and how amazing it is. And I grew up hearing about Gaza and the beauty of the beach and the sand, and both of them are destroyed by the same occupier, by the same colonial system, by the same, but you can never erase the beauty of it. Like even for us, like I never been to Gaza. I don't have the right to go to Gaza, but I have a bottle in my room that was sent as a gift, the sand of Gaza.
Wow.
And it was the most precious thing that you can ever get. I mean, it was ugly because it's like now it's in a Coca-Cola can that I have to empty, but then the part of the history then, So what we need to understand that the magic that people like Bisan and even social media and Meta is suppressing the Palestinian voice, but it was too late to suppress after the truth was out there, and then they realized that they have to suppress the people. But people know now. People know that away from those editorial lines that goes according to the agenda of every news outlet over here and over there, the foreign media and how they're paid to be later on the spokesperson of Trump in this new government after serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then being the Fox News reporter who covered the story of the American invasion of Iraq, how fair and balanced coverage it is. What those kids created in Gaza, what all the voices created in Gaza, even at the time that I'm a journalist. Bisan said that she's not, but well, guess what? Yes, you are a journalist now. and everyone in Gaza is the sound of Gaza, the journalist of Gaza, the new creation of journalism. Saying it as it is. I don't care how good your English is. I don't care how wide your vocabulary is. I don't care. Just tell me the story. Just as simple as you told me the story of Guyana, like how the resilience and the resistance and the hope that we still hold from those stories, that once upon a time, those people were terrorists. Now they are freedom movement. One day, the world will recognize that the sound of Palestinians and the movement and those souls that were paid with their souls and their blood, one day they will be called the freedom resistance. And one day we will be proud enough to tell our story as Guyana and as South Africa, and maybe there will be a monument somewhere over there speaking about, I don't know who the chosen one will be. We have Nelson Mandela, but in Palestine we have so many Nelson Mandelas. So many Nelson Mandelas that we have to spread them all over the world once Palestine is free. And I believe in people. I know it's ugly, and I know the situation is bad, and I know that there's a lot of bloodshed, but I believe in people. I still believe in the power of people, that leaders can lie, can fake, can change the story, can get not enough of the beheaded babies in Gaza and the women raped inside of Israeli jail, men raped inside of Israeli jails. Yesterday, I was in this awkward situation, which a friend of mine, Mu'tasim, came from. He travels a lot. I don't even know from which part he came, because he had news about his father who is in jail, that someone came out of jail and said that he's not doing okay. He was taken to the hospital. For 2 weeks, we didn't know what's going on with him. And for so many people in the West Bank and people that thinks that we journalists have a superpower to give all the answers to the unknown, he was begging me to give him an answer. And then I had the answer of his father that was in jail for too long, in and out, in and out. But at the time that prisoners are being executed in silence, they are being terrorized in silence. They're being raped in silence. They are being hungered in silence. And because the news is too big in Gaza, no one is talking about them. Yesterday at 6 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang and I had to answer. And it was Amani from the prisoner clubs telling me, Faten, I have bad news. And I said, what? Did he die? She said, yes, he died. Of course, the word died is not a fair word to use because he was killed by Israeli forces. And they hide the news since the 5th of November. So he was in a fridge, dead, with other 2 prisoners from Gaza that no one knew about. And it was only because we were insisting on having an answer, and insisting on having an answer just because one prisoner came out of jail and reported that this guy gave him his shirt and his pants as a reminder to be sent to his family because he's not going to make it. He's dying. He was beaten to death. And I had to break out the news for my friend that I need you to be with your mom because a delegation is coming over to deliver the news of how your dad is being killed, has been killed by Israeli forces. Do you know how many times I had to inform this news? Not having an answer. It's a breach of international law. Inside of the concentration camp that is so-called prison or Israeli jails. So, yeah, everything related to Palestine is nothing but an international law violation over here with the full impunity that is being granted to Israel.
Exactly. That is definitely true, Faten. It's human law violation. No matter how many times they try to rename it, rephrase it, it's illegal, it's immoral, it's unacceptable. Our next panelist is May Al-Barzinji. I'll just hand the mic over to you, May.
Okay, thank you. Well, to my fellow advocates for justice, number one, I'm just deeply honored to speak before you today alongside this very distinguished panel. My heartfelt gratitude goes to Bisan, whose tireless reporting from Gaza has kept the truth alive, even in the darkest of times. Bisan, to us, at least to my family in Jamaica, is not just a reporter, but she's a member of our family. And thank you to Faten for reporting from the West Bank, despite the immense risk to your life. Your courage honors the memory of your beloved friend, Shireen Abu Akleh, may she be resting in peace, who was tragically assassinated for her unwavering commitment to exposing the truth. As I share my thoughts, I do want to acknowledge the support of my Jamaican husband, who shares my passion for advocacy and social justice. Together, we launched 876 Muslims, an online initiative aimed at bridging gaps, fostering empathy, and promoting a deeper understanding of social justice issues and minimizing Islamophobia, issues that are both deeply personal to us. When I first arrived in Jamaica over 5 years ago, I was number one struck by the pervasive presence of Gaza. Gaza is in local culture, it's in music, it's in the graffiti, it's how many people I can count with Gaza. Yet while the name Gaza was widely known, few even knew the real Gaza or truly understood the reality of what was happening there. This disconnect sparked within me the urgency to educate and raise awareness about Palestine, to help bridge the gap between what people thought they knew and the lived experience of those enduring suffering and violence in Gaza and the occupation of Palestine. In 2021, as atrocities in Gaza intensified, my husband and I began sharing content and updates on Gaza through social media. And to our surprise, Jamaicans were eager to learn. As we engaged with local communities, especially the Muslim community on the island, we learned that many were hesitant of repercussions. The reluctance mirrored what I saw post 9/11 in the United States. But as I learned about Jamaica's rich history, proud heritage of resistance, it gave me hope. I was inspired by the courage of the Maroons, and in particular, Nanny of the Maroons, who fought against slavery, a fight that continues to resonate with the spirit of defiance against oppression. I thought of the historic struggle of Paul Bogle and George William Gordon, who fought for the land and rights of emancipated Black Jamaicans, standing up to the colonial system that sought to keep them in chains. Their legacy of defiance and resilience is part of the very fabric of Jamaica's identity. I also think of the Rastafari movement, which is deeply rooted in liberation, empowerment, and the struggle for freedom. Rastafarians have long been allies in the global fight for justice and human rights. Their teachings have inspired generations of oppressed people, connecting their struggle to the broader fight for global equality. Jamaica's legacy of standing for justice extends beyond the shores of the island. Jamaica was among the first countries to impose economic sanctions against apartheid South Africa, taking a strong stance against a brutal system of racial segregation and oppression. This was a courageous act that showcased Jamaica's unwavering commitment to standing with oppressed people across the world. Jamaica, along with 3 other CARICOM countries, also broke with US policy to establish diplomatic missions to Cuba, defying US isolation and opening up a space for dialogue and solidarity. And since independence, the Jamaican government has supported the Palestinian right to self-determination and an end to the occupation. As an Arab Iraqi American who moved to Jamaica about 5 years ago, I come with firsthand experience of what it means to live in a land where your people are persecuted, to grow up in the shadow of war, and to understand that silence that too often drowns the struggles of the oppressed. I was born and raised in the US and early on started attending anti-war and pro-Palestinian protests. I was also witness to the impact of post 9/11 Islamophobia. Among the most vivid memories was being run off the road in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., simply for being Muslim, as my scarf was a dead giveaway. I was yelled at, "Go back home, you terrorists," even though I was home. And at that time, the US was bombing my father's homeland, Iraq. I also carry with me the faces of my nieces who are half Palestinian and the stories of my family, stories of displacement and war. I grew up knowing what it meant to be part of a people who have been under constant siege. And at a young age, I watched in horror as the world turned a blind eye to the suffering of my people. Post 9/11 America silenced us through fear tactics, through policies that made it harder for Arabs, Muslims, and other marginalized groups to speak out, to resist, or to be heard. But when I moved to Jamaica and witnessed the atrocities happening in Gaza, I knew that I could not remain silent anymore. I was tired of the deafening silence that allowed injustice to continue unchecked. I was tired of the silence that covered the cries for help from Palestine, from Iraq, from Yemen, and from so many other places where people suffer in the name of political agendas and imperial interests. I come to you today with the same spirit of resistance that Jamaican so proudly embodies. I come as an Iraqi American, as a Muslim woman, as an advocate for justice, and as someone who believes that silence in the face of oppression is no longer an option. The courage of this island's history, the strength of its people, and the unwavering commitment to justice and human rights inspired me to keep speaking up. Our work through 876 Muslims and the Caribbean Freedom in Central and South America reflects that same spirit of resistance. Today, we recognize the power of collective action, empathy, and humanity in driving meaningful change. Today, we stand in solidarity with Palestine, with Gaza, and with all oppressed people who long for freedom, justice, and dignity. Let us break the silence. Let us challenge systems of oppression. Let us forge a united front for freedom and human rights, knowing that our voices matter, that our actions count, and that our solidarity can truly shape a brighter future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, May. Thank you so much for that. That was very insightful, and I agree with you. We now have to pave the way for the future generation, especially, and we will make a change. We will make a difference. We will see a free Palestine. I will now open the panel discussion for you all to discuss. I will read some of the questions from the Q&A that people posed. Some of the questions were for Bisan as well. I must say, the ambassador Linda Sobe, she was meant to speak, but I believe her phone battery died. I'm not sure if she will rejoin, but it's sad that we cannot hear from her today. I was really looking forward to hear from her. As you know, she's our ambassador to the Caribbean states, and she represents Palestine to our Caribbean states, and she's made incredible diplomatic relations with the Caribbean states. So I was really looking forward to hear her. Anyways, let's ask some questions. May, I have a question for you. As we know, the Caribbean and Palestine, they both share histories marked by resistance against colonial forces. How can Caribbean nations use these shared experiences to foster a deeper, more active solidarity with Palestine?
I think when I look at what transpires in Jamaica, I always feel like we have to remind Jamaicans of their history, right? I feel like there's so much distractions in our modern time and people forget about their history. And so for me, when I moved here and started learning more in depth about the Caribbean history, specifically Jamaica, for me, it was a no-brainer. Like, okay, this is easy. They were both colonized under the same oppressions. I mean, even today, like I was listening to Faten talk about how, the soldiers pull up and they have machine guns or guns in their face. I mean, I honestly can tell you a million stories of like that in Jamaica. You have a very brutal, very hardcore police force. You have people who are oppressed and made to feel scared. So I've seen a lot of similarities. And I think reminding the the community, of their history, of the strength they brought. That is vital, education and reminders. So that to me is imperative. And I think when you spend time, I think at the community level, at the local level, yeah, we spend a lot of time doing social media, and sometimes the message gets missed, to local schools, to your local community centers, just to your neighbors. So it's not just educating through social media platforms, but it's also that one-on-one education and explanation, and why the struggle in Palestine is why it's relevant to the locals too, and how it's similar. So I think that's a big part of what's missing right now.
And Faten, as a war reporter, as an advocate, you've witnessed firsthand the human toll of occupation, of genocide. In your experience, how can storytelling, particularly from the perspective of war-torn civilians, become a powerful tool in shifting the global narrative on Palestine?
The global narrative was always controlled by foreign media and what their agenda and what they want people to hear and what you are allowed to talk about. And this is where the big shift started, in which no one controls what you can say, no one controls what you can do, and no one can control how to tell the story. This is why I always say that the weapon of social media was the biggest weapon that the Palestinians knew how to use and turn it against the whole world and show the real colors of those big names such as BBC, ABC News, CNN, and how fake and misleading they are. So the voice of those people on the ground, and maybe that was the most important thing that this war revealed, that the voice of the people are the only voice that should be heard, and you should not get a reporter who lives in Jamaica to cover the story of Palestinians, though we are related in the depth and the soul of the cause, but you will never understand the games and the twist in between. This is why I say only a local can cover the story. Only a local can tell a story, even if you don't have the perfect language to say. The soul of the story is what matters. The image of the story is what matters. I all the time say that, for instance, right now, I refuse to report for, I had a great job and I resigned because, you know what? I'm not going to tell the story how you want it to be. And they use this weapon against it. You don't want to tell it how we want it, then you can leave. Well, you know what? I can leave easily because now I have more power than your stupid channel that lies to people and spread false news, that even after 410 days of a genocide, they're still talking about the 40 beheaded people, the kids that never happened. They still insist on 1,200 massacred Israeli Jews, that 600 of them only were killed by the resistance, and they are soldiers, and the rest were killed even by the Israeli government, for God's sake. You have an Israeli newspaper that did an investigation report that put it out there that their tanks and their helicopters, we don't have a tank, we don't have a helicopter, so don't come and tell me that we have the power to have an airstrike or to bomb all the civilians that were killed by Israeli forces, and they're still accusing the Palestinians of doing so. And they have the guts to repeat it over and over and over again, though it was debunked so many times. Until now, the White House spokesman goes on and tell you, well, I don't have any evidence, I don't have any proof of the massacre that took place in the Shifa hospital, but automatically you will adopt the 40 beheaded babies that never happened by the Israeli media, in which CNN, New York Times, BBC, they all had to apologize online, for God's sake. They apologized for the fake news. And politicians on big platforms are still repeating this lie. Give a local the microphone. They know better how to tell the story. They know the twist and the twist in it and the fakeness and the truth, and they will tell you the story as it is. Even if it's going to hurt my own mother, I will go and say it. Because we have this word in Arabic, says malhum mish kbir. They don't have someone that is bigger than themselves. They don't have someone who will threaten them. We are people who lost it all. We have nothing to lose but our dignity, but our narrative and our story. So don't threaten me that you're going to carry a gun and shoot me with it, because you shot me 3 times and I'm still on the ground and I'm still reporting. What else do you want? Like, even if you put the gun to my head, I will still be there and I'll be still reporting. So don't use that weapon with me. But at the time that a foreigner will come here, oh no, I have security measurements. I need a bodyguard. I need security assessment from settlers who are 13 years old, who's gonna attack you and hit you, as they did with your correspondent in Jerusalem and as they did in your correspondent in Jenin and in different times. And it wasn't a big deal. What's happening in the West Bank, the burning people alive, attacking their villages, displaced more than 1,200 communities in Masafir Yatta and in Olsi area, the Bedouin community. Me being threat, and I'm being threatened by settlers. They're calling me nonstop. They leaving messages on my car. They ruining my car. They're like trying to silence you in all different ways by threatening you. And I know that they can do it. If you got to my car and you managed to flatten the 4 wheels and you put a like piece of paper saying that we're gonna blow you up, and you have the guts to do it, and then the security forces calls my mom threatening her to silence her daughter, what kind of, are we a gangsters? Oh, it's a gangster style what's happening in the West Bank.
And the harassment, Faten.
And the
You
harassment.
mentioned the checkpoints, the harassment that we face on daily basis, going through these checkpoints,
Yeah.
men and women. And
Yeah.
you can't even videotape that, because if you do, you know.
Yeah, but I still do report it, Habibti. I
Yeah.
don't. We have hidden cameras. You can take my phone. This is why you will never see one Palestinian journalist having one phone.
Yes.
Yeah? You will have the phone I'm talking to you with, and then you will have another phone, and then you will have a third phone, and then you will have an undercover phone, and then you will have a BlackBerry phone. So this is the kind of equipment that you have to walk with around, okay? This is a hidden one because they still don't know it's a real phone. So you just that they will think it's your wallet. So you will film everything, but then you will be threatened, like what happened with the settlers. So yeah, they're doing programs in Palestine, but no. The program is only in Holland with the football team that started attacking Arab Muslims and Palestinians, and they want, which one that I'm using now? This one. Wait, I got lost. Yes.
Okay, so my next question is to Ms. Hana. What inspired the Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine to take such a strong stance on Palestine? And do you feel Guyanese are coming together and reflected in their own experience from the past in order to address what is happening right now?
GSMP, Guyana Solidarity Movement with Palestine, was born out of this shared vision where a group of Guyanese, like-minded Guyanese, felt compelled to stand up for justice and to oppose oppression. And we recognized a gap in organized advocacy for Palestine in Guyana. So we launched the GSMP to amplify the voices of Palestinians and all oppressed peoples. I spoke on this a bit in my presentation, but Guyana has this deep-rooted history of colonialism, slavery, bravery and resistance, which mirrors the current experience of Palestinians. So these experiences resonate powerfully with us, and they form the foundation of our solidarity with Palestine. To answer the second part of your question, do you feel Guyanese coming together and reflecting in their own experiences from the past? Certainly. I think that Guyanese people's ability to galvanize around not just the genocide of Palestinians that's happening right now, but over the course of the occupation, of the brutal occupation of Palestine, I think we see a lot of popular support in Guyana, which is incredibly encouraging. And so I think what we're experiencing across the Caribbean is a heightened sense of solidarity, where Caribbean people are saying, we don't want to historicize this. We don't want to, in 10 years' time, say, what happened to these people who left Gaza? Why did they leave? And kind of make it into this post-colonial discussion. We want to stop that from happening right now. And we want to preserve not just the culture, but the lives of these people.
And Faten, someone asked in the chat, and this is kind of tied into my question as well, given your work on the front lines, witnessing horrendous situations, including women giving birth under inhumane conditions, like in the midst of raining bombs, the doctors are conducting C-sections, or girls and women having to reuse their sanitary napkins. Someone asked if there's even pads available for women in Gaza. Or the mothers that are feeding their children non-nutritional foods because they do not have access to formula for food for their children. They're feeding them grass. So what message do you have to our listeners here about this horrible, inhumane treatment?
Again, I emphasize that the voice of the people around of the world, like I was participating in this conference in France just a few months before the war, and they said, what should be done? And I said, don't wait for Palestinians to resist only, because the resistance will be strong enough. But if we don't have the power and the support of the world, then there is no point. And if they allow a genocide to happen in one place, then it is a green light for the rest of the world. You need to learn and understand from the history of Guyana, from the history of Jamaica, from the history of what happened in South Africa, that if it's allowed once in one place, then it means that it's allowed in every single place in the world. It's not just the Palestinian, it's setting new red lines of what is allowed and what is not allowed. And guess what? The people in power change. And if someone is in power today, tomorrow he's going to be the victim. So remember, if you allowed this for Palestinians to go through, then one day when it happens to you, the international law will look at the Palestinians and said, well, the criteria changed. It did happen before. We don't have to make it a big deal because a genocide was conducted in Palestine and no one moved. So we can conduct another genocide in a different part of the world. So the message is that the voice and the movement for once and all should not be coming only from Palestine. It's not the story of Palestine only. It's a story of humanity. It's a story of how a genocide is being broadcasted live on air while the whole entire world is watching. And there was beautiful movement in the beginning, but it's not a trend. People were going to demonstrations, students were going into campus, they were moving, everyone was rejecting, and then they got tired. Habibi, if you got tired, people are still dying. A genocide is still going on. So for God's sake, move. Move. Yes, I want more 300 cars going in rallies around everywhere, not just in Guyana. I want it to be in Jamaica. I want it to be in South Africa. I want it to be in the United States. I want it to be in the whole world, because it cannot be happening that kids are dying. They're not even finding grass to eat. As Bisan said, they are in a place where it's sand. There is no greens to start with. There is no greens. And now they're sending aids in which, okay, in front of the media, in front of the security check, yes, we entered the food aid into Gaza, but once it reached to the school, a refugee school, a UN school, they set it on fire and they bombed the food. Not just the sanitizers. Let's not just talk about the sanitizer. Women in Gaza, people in Gaza, they don't have water. On a regular day, even before the war, people who were lucky to go to Gaza, they always come back with a rash. A rash in your sensitive areas, to answer that question, because the regular water that they have is a salty water. If you don't have the luxury to buy a bottle of water, then you're going to drink the water that is salted, and you're going to shower with that water. And I guarantee you that 100% of the people in Gaza shower with salty water. They always have rash. That's even before the war. Do you know that, to simplify things, to be more hick, you know that chocolate wedding dresses, ايش الكزبرة, not you know that even green things that you put in the
أنا
salad.
نسيتها برضو. Wait a minute. هلا قلتولها.
طب ايش بقدونس معناها؟
استني خليكي. Parsley.
Not the
Parsley.
parsley, the other thing that is disgusting that looks like.
Wait a minute. I'm just gonna Google it.
It's not allowed into Gaza. Why a wedding dress, the fabric that is needed for wedding dresses, is not allowed to Gaza?
Cilantro.
Cilantro, you know that it's not allowed in Gaza? A wedding dress, the fabric needed for a wedding dress is not allowed in Gaza. Chocolate is not allowed in Gaza. What else? Like stupid shit is not allowed
There's
in
actually, because they were besieged like now for 17 years, there's a certain type of pastas that aren't allowed to get into
Yeah.
Gaza. A pasta.
And this is not, and this is even not before the war. Do you know, like, sorry,
Exactly.
I'm a heavy smoker, so I was like trying to like, but the cigarette in Gaza cost one cigarette, okay, $30, while weed in Gaza is for 10 shekels, is for $3. Who's making sure to fill at the time that they don't have food to eat? They're making sure that weed is going into Gaza. Why? Why? You're talking about sanitizing and like women needs and pads? No, they don't have women needs and pads. They don't have any, they don't have diapers. They're creating dirty fabric. They're putting it together to reuse it again. Women are being sexually abused by Israeli soldiers. We have so many stories of prisoners coming up from Gaza talking about sexual assault that no one is talking about, that the United States only sees how a fake story of sexual assaults that took place in the 7th of October. So
and it went viral without even investigating it.
No, with no need to investigate. Everything that Israel says is stamped, is true. No need to investigate that.
Yeah, totally true.
Mm.
Thank you, Faten, so much.
You're welcome, and thank you for your time, and thank you for the lessons that we learned from the resilience in Guyana and the resistance and the strength that you gave us throughout the history. Same in Jamaica, same in South Africa. You know that it's easy to sing that song and like, you know, but you'll see the flag of South Africa in every demonstration, just as we see the flag of Iraq, just as we see the flag of Algeria, because Palestinian people recognize those who stood up with them, who supported them. They understand their history, they speak it out, and they relate emotionally and humanly on the same level. And this is why it's important to have your voices over here. It's important to hear it from a survivor of such a Holocaust that no one recognized. Because what happened back then is a Holocaust. It's not a thing that is related to one color, one culture, and one Jew supremacy that thinks they're better than everyone in this world.
Someone in the chat is asking, Faten, you truly are amazing. I have a loss for words when trying to articulate your courage and persistence. My question for you is, do you know of any initiatives or plans that are being made to protect the citizens of the West Bank if they decide to do a full land grab and full displacement of the West Bank?
I'm working on this report that's going to be aired soon on Asia Plus about what we call لجان الحماية الشعبية, the popular, like at 5 o'clock in the morning, you lose your English, but the popular, إيش لجان الحماية الشعبية? So it's from the people to the people, where every neighborhood there is, like, they gather, they assign a group of protectors of the neighborhood, in which, for instance, in the areas that is being under direct attack by settlers, like Der Dibwan, where I filmed my story, is they built a tent on the top of the mountain. And this tent, they have a schedule, a weekly schedule, that they gathered the men in the village and the women as well. And they put them on a schedule in which they have to be awake all night to be the watcher of the village. And it started in 79 in Khusra, and they had to turn it into, with the technology being like more aware and more that, instead of gathering in a tent, because it became so dangerous to be in a tent in areas like Huwara and Beta near Nablus, where the Top Hill youth, the terrorist group of settlers that attack and do all the programs against Palestinian, and that burned the family of Ahmed Dawabshe a few years ago. They turned it into Telegram groups and WhatsApp, and in some other areas they have a tent in which they all go according to a schedule and stay as a watcher and a keeper of the village, of the city. And whenever there is an attack by settlers, their job is to alert and awake the whole village to protect this village. But what's happening right now with the government arming the settlers, it's becoming more hard, especially that Palestinians in the West Bank are civilians, that they don't have any weapon or any protection, but their body and few stones and like sticks. This is how they defend themselves. And nowadays, with those settlers being armed without having any sanction against them, so when the government, the Israeli government, is leading this program campaign, and still not banned, or any government in the world looks like they're conducting crimes or programs against Palestinians by settlers, but no, this is they're protected. Yani.
I think you did a report on that, didn't you, Faten? On the settlers attacking people in Beta.
In Beta, in Al-Oja, in
I am originally from Beta, so I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah. فyeah, we على جبل أبو سباح, like the Abu Sbah mountain, we
took it
there for like a week. They took it. Yeah.
They took it. And if you come near it, you'll be shot.
Everyone will be shot. Like, I live across a settlement And smallah alayhum, like now they have the guts to go down on us and burning cars.
Yeah, I've seen the news.
Protection, Habib, the international protection. Everyone is protecting them. Of course, they're going to have guts, and it will not stop until, like, the world showed their, like, no, we're not second-class citizens. We are human equally, like you are, yani.
I have a question here for May. Jamaica has a proud history of standing on the right side of justice, as demonstrated by being the first country to ban products from apartheid South Africa in solidarity with their fight. Given this precedent, why do you think similar action has not been taken in support of Palestine's struggle?
Yeah, so I think I touched up on it a little bit during my discussion points in my speech. Number one, I think there's a fear, if you want to look at it locally, not on the government level, I would say a majority of Jamaicans have the dream of going to the US or getting a US visa. So they understand that if they speak up, there might be repercussions. So that's a big issue. Number two is Jamaica and America have strong partnership. And America provides Jamaica with a lot of support. And so the government is less likely to have a staunch stance against Israel. Additionally, Israel has ties in Jamaica in terms of national security, technology. Like I know they recently signed a tech deal for their voting. I know that they have a deal with the water supply. So there are interests like Israel has business partnerships in Jamaica that if you speak too much, who knows what could happen. I would say I was really shocked actually when I saw how much fear exists with even with the Muslim community. Like I thought with the no-brainer, like Muslims are going to speak up for Palestine in Jamaica, but that's not the case. A lot, I've heard stories of Muslims being pulled in for questioning with the Jamaican police force, with the tax authority. I've heard stories of Jamaican Muslims losing their visas to go to the US, being turned away at the border, the US. So these, I think, are all factors that play into why you don't see a stronger stance from the government and from the people. I mean, I've noticed also a decline in some of the protests, and I think it's due to them hearing stories of what's happening with the visas and stuff. So I think, and because of the economic conditions on the island, it's very hard. You're just living on Jamaican income. I mean, the monthly salary is a couple hundred, and the cost of living is multiple times that. So a lot of them, the only way they think of actual real survival and success is leaving the country and going to, let's say, US or UK. So those are, I think, barriers to seeing a stronger stance from the government of Jamaica and from the people to speak up. And I've also even music is huge in Jamaica. The music industry is huge. I've heard of websites where I've heard of stories of where, if you were a Jamaican artist and you speak up for Palestine, you're dinged. They will come after you. I heard that, we have, I'm not really good with the names, Kabaka Pyramids. He had lost some concerts, maybe he didn't have as many concerts as he was supposed to. I was shocked that Vybz Kartel, who was the one who coined the popular cultural term of Gaza, not to say anything after he was released from prison, 13 years in prison. Gaza became popularized in Jamaica because of him and one word, but in previous music, you can hear him kind of refer a little bit to Gaza, or kind of the understanding. You've had the Marleys. Marleys actually go pro-Israel, many of the Marleys. So I think there is a concerted effort to make sure that because Jamaica historically had such a strong voice for anti-apartheid, resistance, the powers that be have made sure that that voice is controlled.
Guys, I know I'm really sorry, but the army is around the area, and it means I have. Yeah, it's normal, Habibti. It's normal. Don't worry. I just have to. No, I just have to jump, and I have a live shot, so I have to get ready for my live shot because it's in Birzeit and in here. So they're just like sending me messages nonstop, and I'm like, I try to delay them as much as I can, but I need to give them some footage from the area, and I have to do my live shot. Thank you for your time. It's really amazing to be with you guys. Thank you for all the stories, and keep talking about Palestine. It's not a trend. Keep on talking. Go back to the street. Make it chaos, guys. Don't make it be a normal thing.
Thank you so much, Faten, for joining. Thank you so much for risking and sacrificing your sleep.
Guys, we not only need to
Thank you.
thank
Thank
Faten
you.
for
Really.
attending, but we also need to thank her for reaching out to Bisan. She's the one
True.
who reached out.
Fikra, Bisan is always there. Like, she's always there. She will never say no to any
I
time
know.
that she will have a
Anyone I
point.
contacted couldn't reach her out. You're the only
Yeah,
one who
the
could.
internet, because of the internet and the connection
Yeah.
and this and all this. So
So thank you, Faten, so much.
you,
It was a
Faten.
pleasure to have you.
thank you
And
so much.
Ambassador will be in contact with you.
Sure. And sorry that I have to leave, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but but duty calls, hon.
Happy to
Thank
take
you,
care and be
Faten.
careful.
Bye
Be careful,
bye.
Faten,
Good luck,
okay?
I
Faten.
will. I will.
Bye
I will.
bye.
Bye. See
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yes, May.
So, I mean, I think that I summarized it. Do you have any questions about what I stated?
I'm just going through the chat looking for questions. So that was a
Okay.
question I saw in your area. I also saw a question about BDS. How does your campaign work to integrate BDS into your advocacy?
So I'm part of a greater group coalition called March for Palestine, and they have particular demands that they repeat and bring up at each event. They pose it to the government. They want to, in terms of boycotting and divesting, they're requesting the Jamaican government completely cut ties with Israel. In terms of the boycott off of our page, 876 Muslims, I try to basically Caribbean brands that we should be boycotting. So there are like specific brands to the Caribbean that are more prominent than some of the, like McDonald's. There's not a single McDonald's in all of Jamaica, thank God, right? So we post that and we try to communicate it out at events. Okay, these are the brands that BDS is, trying to move people to organize around that. So those are like two ways that the broader coalition, March 9, tries to communicate to the government, please, we're asking you to break ties with Israel, all diplomatic ties. And then within personally our page, we try to promote the BDS in terms of boycotting which companies are specific to the Caribbean, which are ones that, we know that are very popular and that would have effect, So those are ways that we incorporate BDS into our program, within our advocacy efforts.
And the last and final question I have is addressed to Hana, and it is, what more can Guyana's government do to put an end to the genocide in Palestine?
Put an end to the genocide in Palestine. Guyana's government has the unique opportunity. Guyana's government has the power and the responsibility to take a strong, principled stand on the international stage. As a member of the global community and a country with a history of resistance against colonialism, Guyana should lead by example. One immediate action Guyana can take is to use its influence at the United Nations Security Council by voting in favor of humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people and pushing for a resolution that calls for an immediate ceasefire and an end to the genocide, which Guyana has done, and continue to call for an immediate and unequivocal ceasefire. Guyana should also back the International Court of Justice's ruling that calls for Israel to be held accountable for war crimes and press for a commitment to rebuild Palestine, to ensure that Palestinians can recover and that they can rebuild in peace. Beyond international votes, Guyana must also take strong direct actions, which includes severing all diplomatic ties with Israel, as continued economic engagement to legitimize and fund the oppressive actions that Palestinians endure. For instance, DDL's investments in Israeli companies and the proposed 10 million hydroponics deal that supports Israeli agriculture. These are opportunities for divestment. These are opportunities that would show Guyana's commitment to human rights over profit. Guyana's government must stop accepting meetings and support from lobbyists and Zionist investors who seek to exploit Guyana's natural resources, including our burgeoning oil sector. I think that people need to take a step further to actionize what's been happening. And I think that what is needed is a bigger increase and like accountability, where we are able to expose ties to Israel in Guyana in investments. And what we're seeing now is a willingness to intensify pressure on government agencies and to say, it's not enough for us just to release statements anymore. It's not enough for us just to hold vigils and to attend protests. We need to see actions to isolate Israel. And in taking these actions, I believe Guyana can lead the Caribbean and the world in a movement that stands unambiguously for justice and peace and the fundamental rights of Palestinians.
Precisely. We need actions, as Bisan said, you know, as a Palestinian on the ground, words are not enough. We need global actions. And we need governments to listen to us. We need the people to be united. And to all of the our listeners that ask questions in the chat, and your question probably went unanswered, I do apologize. It's a lot. And, you know, we've had to give Bisan this stage, and it was very eye-watering and is very heartwarming hearing from her. So as we draw this powerful and thought-provoking webinar to a close, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our panelists, our incredible panelists who have shared their invaluable insights and experiences with us today. To May, Al-Barzinji, thank you so much. Hana, Ambassador Linda, I'm so sorry we haven't heard from her, you know, internet connection or phone battery. I think she said her phone battery was dying, and it was a real bummer because I really wanted to hear from her. The people wanted to hear from her. You know, a lot of our Caribbean folk came on with the intention of hearing from her, and inshallah, our campaign and the other Caribbean advocacy campaigns, we will do another webinar and we will hear from her. Bisan and Faten, thank you so much for joining. You know, their unwavering commitment to justice, resilience, it will not go unheard. And to the people of Palestine, we will not forget you. We will not give up on you. Your voices have inspired and educated us, and we are deeply, deeply thankful for the courage and strength you show in your work. To our audience, thank you for being part of this crucial conversation. Your presence today speaks volumes about the solidarity that we as a global community are forging. And it is up to us to carry this momentum forward. It is up to us to fight actively for justice, for the innocent lives lost, and for the liberation of Palestine. So a lot of people in the chats are asking, how can we help? How can we help? You can help by standing firm in your solidarity. Raise your voice, every corner, raise your voice in every forum. We are the power. Keep demanding action. Write to your governments, flood their emails, flood their letterboxes. Keep showing up, keep protesting, keep demanding action. That is the only way to get them to listen to us. And cash is king. Boycott, boycott. Hurt their pockets. That is the only way. It happened to apartheid South Africa. It can happen to Palestine, and it will happen to Palestine. A special thank you to Dalia from the Palestine Embassy for her tireless efforts in connecting us with Faten and Bisan. Without your dedication, we would not have been able to bring these voices to the audience. So thank you so much. A heartfelt thank you to GSMP for organizing this as well. And in light of the fact that the internet in Palestine seems to be working more than the efforts of Zionism to silence the truth, we can only smile. Bisan was smiling because the truth, like the courage of those who fight for it, cannot be stopped. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Let us move forward, united in purpose, to ensure that we do not rest until Palestine is free. Good night, good morning, and may we all form in our resolve so that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.